Thank you for joining us here. My name is Jason Fisk, and I'm the Executive Director of UCLA School of Law's Master of Legal Studies program. It's my privilege today to have with us three students in our part-time student who are here to talk to you about this program and about their experience in it so far to help hopefully answer some questions for you about your search for a program this upcoming year. And so we're going to start by going around and having each of them introduce themselves. And so let's go ahead and start with Josh.
Hey, Jason, thank you so much for having me. My name is Joshua Brackett. I'm currently involved with two companies, co-founded, each of them one a few months ago, the other about a year and a half ago, based here in Los Angeles. Companies do a couple of things. One is an onshore outsourced call center. The other does inclusion and equity work really around the entertainment and media space, which is where our team came from. Prior to that, I spent 7 years in corporate finance with a large media company and studio based in New York City. Spent some of that time based in Amsterdam as well. And prior to that, I worked in Latin America for a couple years, spent some time in the United States military in the 75th Ranger Regiment. And I started my career actually working with the United Nations in Africa. My educational background is I've got a marketing degree, I have an MBA, and then I've also got a master's degree in international relations with a focus on economics.
Thank you, Josh. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Christine.
Thank you, Jason. My name is Christine Shaw. I will start my education. I got my undergrad degree, 2 BAs from the rival. So this has been a little bit challenging for me. So I'm a Trojan for many years, but USC, I got my BAs in journalism with an emphasis in public relations. And then from the film school, cinema, television, in critical studies. My career, I instantly went into television publicity, which then grew to integrated marketing. I've worked at the BBC, Fremantle Media, Rogers & Cowan, FX Networks, holding all leadership positions in communication strategy and branding and marketing, crisis communications, etc. That's me.
Thanks so much, Christine, and we do accept the challenge of converting Trojans in this program, so we're happy to have you. All right, Chester.
Thank you, Jason. My education history, well, I also have a couple of graduate degrees. Before coming to UCLA, I have a degree in economics from the University of Virginia. I have a public administration degree from Harvard, and I have an MBA from the University of Chicago. After school, I went and worked in the Middle East. I started a couple of companies with some friends over there, advising the government on a number of both private and public matters, and including education and healthcare initiatives. I helped them start a sovereign wealth fund, and about 10 years ago, decided to move back to the U.S. and have been advising private clients, mostly in real estate transactions, since returning.
All right, thank you so much, Chester. So now the next question, we're going to start with you, Josh, on this one. So what was it when you were a prospective student that drew you to this Master of Legal Studies program, and why UCLA? What set UCLA apart as far as this program being the right choice for you? Starting with you, Josh.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So yeah, the ubiquitous question of, or the regret of not having done a JD when I had time. So, I mean, it's been clear sort of running companies, working in corporate finance, restructuring, the law is constantly surrounding everything that I do, and it became obvious, a number of years ago, but trying to sort of squeeze that in, a part-time JD for a number of reasons just didn't make sense. I really wanted to focus on sort of the business and transaction side of the law. Started looking at a couple of programs a couple of years ago. What I liked about the UCLA program, well, the first, of course, is the world-class faculty, but secondly is sort of the blend of the core classes, which I take within the program, and then the ability to take some electives, and I've got some in mind, with JD students in the sort of more traditional UCLA program.
All right, thanks, Josh. And Christine.
So in terms of UCLA, while I did mention I am a Trojan, the reason why rivalry exists is because it's the best against the best, right? So I've always had the highest level of respect for UCLA. And then looking at the law school, I mean, there I know the Hollywood Reporter ranked the law school as the top law school for entertainment and media professionals or attorneys. For the last few years, it's definitely the top in Southern California from everything that I looked into. And I have great respect for all of the faculty. I looked into the professors; they're fantastic. I had a lot of the same feelings as Josh in the fact that it feels a little late and hard to try to go get a JD at this stage. But my interest in law generally has been in my heart my whole life. And for me, everything that I do, from communication strategy, especially crisis communications, brand integrations, law comes into it, the legal side. And I've always wanted to have a much deeper understanding for my professional career. And then from a personal side of my career, I've invested in some properties, and I want to keep that growth going, and I want to have a better handle on my rights and doing things properly from the legal point of view.
All right, thanks. Chester.
Well, like a number of other folks, I guess, who are both in this program and considering it, I think the benefits of the study of law are readily apparent once you've been out in the world for even a short period of time. Having said that, the cost and opportunity cost of doing a JD program become more and more significant as time goes on. So as far as I could tell, this program did the best job of really streamlining those parts of law school that are likely to be relevant and helpful to professionals who do not want to become lawyers. So, for example, we don't have classes on skills that aren't relevant to us. So, civil procedure, for example, or trial skills, or in my case, criminal law wouldn't be relevant. And they've just removed those from the curriculum, and they've focused instead on those things that are likely to be most helpful to us. And so, I think it's a great opportunity to sort of cherry pick the best parts of law school without giving up 3 years of time. Why UCLA? Well, I have an interest in entertainment law, and I think it's either the best or among the very best in that field. And it's UCLA is either the highest ranked or one of the highest ranked law schools that offers a program like this. I think over time other schools will emulate it because I think it's such a wonderful program.
All right, thanks. And so for this next question, we're going to start with Christine. And so in this question, we ask you, what factors were some of the big factors that you were considering and balancing when considering which program to do and ultimately deciding the MLS at UCLA?
Yes, well, I always wanted to just generally get a master's degree. I wasn't able to do it right after my undergrad because of financial reasons and needing to jump into the job force. And, I will say that after a number of years, I sort of thought, well, I guess I'm not going to do that. Because how will I balance it? How will I fit it in? And then I had my daughter who's 6 years old. And when I was looking at how this was geared with the fact that it was, the primary group of sort of, whether it be applicants or prospective students, were people who were also balancing executive careers and a lot of them families as well, that piqued my interest more in terms of, well, this could potentially fit in. And then when looking into the scheduling and the time commitment and also the ability to, you could go full-time or you can go part-time over the course of 2 years or up to 4 years. So if you find that, let's say you get a big new job or a big promotion, or maybe you have another child, I'm trying to think of all these things that could pile on more than you already have, you have the ability to still have that quality education and balance it within the time that you have with all of your other obligations. So that helps.
All right, thanks. Chester.
Well, when I looked at the various MLS or similar programs that were out there, what was really important to me is that I wanted to have the most authentic experience that I could possibly have, given the time constraints that are inherent in a master's program as opposed to a JD. And so when I looked at the UCLA curriculum, it looked like I'd be well prepared for upper division classes. And then once you get to the upper division classes, I wanted again to have an authentic experience, to take those classes with full-time JD students and with the best professors and the highest standards. I didn't want something that was watered down or in any way. At the same time, the fact that it's part-time is sort of realistic in the sense that I didn't want to stop working. And so it really checked all the boxes and it was something that I thought I could do comfortably.
All right, Josh.
Yeah, so probably two primary considerations of importance when I was thinking about the MLS. The first was what I'll just call sort of the core of the legal education, getting a sense of the way things work with civil procedure, legal terminology, the way that the courts work. Again, there is not a day that probably goes by, at least a week, where there isn't a legal issue, from employment to something with a vendor or a contract that we deal with or I deal with. So I wanted that. The second consideration was being able to dabble, I'm gonna use that word, sort of dabble into other courses that were maybe adjacent to what I do. So for example, in our second company, we do a lot of work with unions and guilds. So there's a labor law class. We do a lot around certain topics. So potentially taking a class in the civil rights area would be super intellectually interesting, be very applicable to me personally, but C, could also really help me be more efficient, effective, and better at my job.
All right, thanks so much. And so now let's talk a little bit specifically about the part-time program itself. So some of you have alluded to this already, but let's see if we can hone in on this. So what about the part-time format specifically appealed to you, and what aspects of the part-time curricular structure do you enjoy? So let's start with Chester on this one.
Okay, well, sure. So I actually think the part-time, I like the fact that it takes a little bit longer. That might sound, and to me seems even a little bit counterintuitive, but I'll give you an example of why I enjoy that. Last week we were learning about patent law in our private law class. And while we were learning about patent law, I actually helped a client of mine file a patent. And so I just think the fact that this program will take place over a period of 2 years or up to 4 years means you have more time to sort of try things out in the real world. You have more opportunities for the program to interact with your professional career. As far as the curriculum goes, it's also nice that at least for MLS classes, they're during the evenings right now, and so there are times that don't conflict with the careers that we have, and then just the nature of the sheer number of hours. Part-time is more realistic for many folks than a full-time program would be.
All right, thanks, Josh.
Thanks. Yeah, for me, I mean, the part-time was the only feasible format. I mean, the days, are slammed. So, if you start with the part-time format is the only option, that, for me, the UCLA program with the in-person component was, and being in LA, the only game in town. As far as, the curriculum, what I enjoy, it's sort of that sort of soft landing into the field of law. I sat through a couple of JD courses where, you can sit through large transactions and you can, read up a little bit on the law, but the actual nuances of filing a case and litigating, it's just very technical. So not getting sort of thrown to the wolves, so to speak, I have found helpful, sort of, again, that soft sort of landing into the area of legal education, which I think this MLS program does really, really well.
Thanks. And Christine?
I think I sort of inversed my answer a little bit on the last one, but to talk about the part-time curriculum structure, and for part-time right now, it's 2 nights a week. These are the core required, and then we can go into our electives as per our specialization or our self-designed specialization. But I think that it's been structured really well, and the emphasis in the first semester take is, we had a first condensed intro class and then the 2 nights a week, and then the required studying and homework per se. It's been a long time since I've had homework. It fits really well, and I feel like I also feel like the fact that it does take longer, and that it is a residential program, right? Legal studies and matters of the law, that's redundant, but legal studies, it's not something you learn overnight. And I do think that being able to dig in and practice and refresh and apply those core learnings to future courses is, it's really structured well.
Outstanding. Thanks so much. All right. So when you started the program and were looking to be a student, now that you are students in the program, which of the classes in the program are you most excited about, or which of the courses are you most forward to taking in the future? So Josh, let's go ahead and start with you.
So I hate to say this because I'm not going to call it another class, but my favorite one, or most relevant so far, has probably been private law. And just speaking through the first couple of weeks, I mean, you have these topics around nuisance and copyright, which you're in some ways, at least in a big company, sort of always constantly dealing with. I've started 2 companies now, so we file trademarks, but sort of learning maybe the structures and parameters within which these legal issues sort of work has been super helpful. As far as in the future, like I said, there's a couple of electives. I'm interested in the arbitration course because it's more relevant now, I think, in terms of sort of running and managing a company. And then again, some of the electives that will help me think through areas of interest that I'm either, like I said, passionate about, or B, are inherently applicable to the work that I do every day.
All right. So Christine.
Yes, so far, my favorite course has been private law. I think the subject matter for me is, it's interesting. I also find it to be very relevant, and I like it. The professors, I love the way they teach and how they engage the students, and this, philosophy that law isn't about necessarily getting the right answer to something, but it's the argument that you give for that answer, right? So I feel like it's a very collaborative, positive, safe, open atmosphere to shoot your ideas out, not be told that you're wrong, but have it be something that spurs to more items to expand upon, or another way of looking at something. And for me, I don't know if it's partly being more mature than I was when I started my undergrad at 17 years old, but yearning for more education. But I feel like I'm much more excited and engaged, even if I've had a really long day and I'm tired and we're starting, class at 6:30 at night that goes until after 9:30. It's almost like I'm reinvigorated. It's actually really surprising to me. And then in terms of classes I look forward to, I feel like that's something I'm going to have to dig into a little bit more to be more specific, because I probably have more than a handful that I would mention. So. Yeah, it's been a great experience so far.
Thanks. And Chester.
So I have to confess, before I started law school, I'd never, even though I've, taken a number of courses and over the years, I've never really been in an academic environment that didn't involve a lot of numbers. So this is really the first time that I've, and I think, obviously using math and things like that is great, but one thing that it does as well is it leaves some of the other skills a little bit less developed. And so what I've noticed so far is that and I sort of changed my thinking on what courses I might be interested in since we started. Even I've realized what they mean when they say you're going to learn how to think like a lawyer or how to reason like a lawyer. And so I've really gotten much more out of that from the private law class so far. I think the public law class is great in terms of teaching us some functional skills about how how government works and things like that, and will certainly be helpful. For future classes, I had been thinking probably more along the lines of taking functional classes, so things like real estate or securities or something like that would be particularly relevant in my case. As we've gotten into the program, I have thought that I might reconsider and take some more classes that I think will help with my sort of thinking better. So things like negotiation or contract drafting or legal strategy and things of that nature that I think will possibly have broader application. And then if I need to learn some functional skills later on, I can always go ahead and do that.
Very good. So let's talk about the academics and faculty at the law school. So what do you enjoy about UCLA Law's academic environment generally, and how would you describe your academic experience and interactions with your professors? So starting with you, Christine.
So in terms of the three professors that we've had or are currently having so far, I think, I was pleasantly sort of surprised or that the way that they interact with the students, it's very much the same. And they, it's a very human to human, experienced professional to experienced professional. It feels like they are a really good friend that is open to, if I were to put these sort of like demeanor around it, that is just kind and collaborative, but also challenging. And I think you can see the passion in all of them. They're excited to be teaching this. And I think that demeanor brings out the energy level in the students and the excitement in the students, because they're happy about it, and they're in this process with us, and they have been fully invested in getting this program off the ground at UCLA, and they're excited about the future alumni that will represent these efforts.
All right, Chester.
So I found the environment to be both rigorous and friendly, and collaborative. Frankly, professors ask us questions, and then you hear all these horror stories, or at least I did, about the Socratic method. But I found it to be they sort of might ask you a question and see kind of what your foundation is, and then they could ask you additional questions to sort of try to draw out and help you to think better about a problem. I think they've done a great job of getting us to be involved and participate and learn from each other as well. So I found it rigorous and challenging, but also invigorating because of that.
All right, thanks, Josh.
So I found the academic environment, as well as the professors, I would say, just very approachable. We're all sort of just getting thrown into. It's a new way of speaking. It's a new terminology. And what may be interesting or maybe a little different about us is we come with a lot of sort of loaded experience. So we maybe feel like we're more knowledgeable than we are, or maybe have a thinking about a certain type of legal framework that perhaps isn't correct based upon a legal experience. But again, very approachable for us to sort of help us get the level set we need to understand. Again, you tackle so many topics, given that it's not a full JD, but to really level set in a very comfortable but yet really engaging way to sort of get our feet on the ground and moving in the right direction.
All right. So talk to me about your fellow classmates and what your impressions are of them, both from the beginning and now that you're in the actual classes with them. And let's go ahead and start with you, Chester.
So one reason that I actually decided to enroll in this program was my review or my understanding of the class profile. So it looked to me, at least, I'm sort of mid-career. I have about 18 years of experience, and so I wanted to frankly, in my situation, I wanted to be in class with other folks who were in a similar situation, so that we could have more in common, have more things to talk about outside of class. So I've found that I got exactly what I was hoping for. I met a number, about 40, I guess, really, really interesting and talented people, and have had an opportunity already, I guess, 3 or 4 weeks in to get to know 5 or 6 of them very, very well. Everyone is trying very hard and making very, very good contributions in class. So that's a big part of the class. We're kind of like rowing a big boat all together, and so we, everybody depends on each other's effort and abilities to contribute, and I found that to be a really pleasant surprise. Would be the wrong word, but it's been a great experience so far. It's just what I was hoping for.
All right, Josh.
So the MLS student base has been, the word is diverse, everything from age to background, experience, in industry. My view of education in general is that can always be a really good asset. And the faculty have done a good job at, again, sort of bringing that out while also sort of keeping us on track to really sort of dive into the nuance and the applicability and the theories and the frameworks of the law that we need to have to get through this program.
All right, Christine.
My fellow classmates, I am really impressed by the range of experience, industries, diverse background, mix amongst the different specialties. I think everybody I've seen, they've joined this, and they're all in. They want to do this. They're engaged, and it's a very healthy atmosphere. And I feel very lucky to be amongst these fellow students.
All right. So if you could just describe your experience so far in the Master of Legal Studies program in 3 words. And so I'm going to start with you, Chester. So can you describe it in 3 words?
Yes. Transformative, refreshing, and rigorous.
All right, Josh.
I'm going to use an old military phrase, getting squared away.
Love it. All right, Christine.
Invigorating, challenging, and eye-opening. That's sort of 4 words, but hyphenated.
Thanks. That works. All right. So now for the last question, if you could offer your sage wisdom to people who are considering this program, what should they be thinking about, and what kind of advice would you share with prospective students who may be considering this program, and maybe if they're considering maybe the part-time versus the part-time versus the full-time program? Starting with you, Josh.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. As I've talked about with some of my friends in the class, I run a couple of businesses. I will continue to be engaged in business for the rest of my career. It's, again, at every point, at every day, and every week, there are some legal issues that we're dealing with. And the advice or counsel would be like, you really should just do this. As far as part versus full time, I guess part time is the only option I could ever consider. What I like about the UCLA program is the flexibility to sort of work around the schedule, with the core classes being at night, and then some flexibility around some of the electives. But yeah, if you can do it, do it.
All right, Christine.
Yes, well, I am doing the part-time, so I don't have the full experience of doing the full-time. I would say that, if somebody has the flexibility or the opportunity to go full-time and complete it in a condensed time frame, take a sabbatical of some sort, I think that would be a great option as well. But for me too, in balancing both, personal and professional, part-time felt like that was the right choice for me to make sure that, I didn't, have a mental breakdown from no sleep from doing the full-time on top of everything else. I don't know how you could, but I think one, it's residential. It's one of the top schools of law in the world. And, definitely the top that I know of in Southern California. It's world-class faculty, and their method of teaching is it pulls you in, or at least pulls me in. And I feel that when you're engaged and excited about other parts of your life, even if you're adding, a part-time master's of legal studies degree on top of a full-time job or jobs, that may seem like a lot, but if it's something that excites you, that's going to also bleed into the rest of your life. And it provides you the opportunity to have the real life, real time utilization of what you're learning in doing your degree from a part-time format.
All right, Chester.
Great. Well, in my field, which is business, I think, I've gotten an MBA, and having done that and having been through a few weeks of law school, I really think much more of this should have been in the curriculum for all of the MBAs in America. I think anybody with some experience in business, especially as you get a little bit further along in your career, knows that you're going to encounter legal issues, and you should have at least some knowledge of them. So I would encourage anybody in business, certainly, to do something like this. In other fields, it's a little bit harder for me to comment, but I suspect there are many fields out there where it's similar. And so I guess I would say, if you're thinking about doing this program, it probably means you should do this program. If you're wondering whether it would benefit you, the answer is it probably would. In my case, and again, I don't mean to make this about my experiences. I know there's a lot of people who have different experiences out there, but I think it's great to do it part-time, and I would encourage folks to think in that direction. The reason I say that is I think this is something that, again, you're going to learn things in class that you immediately apply to your actual career. And so if you've got the opportunity to do that over 2 or 3 years, there's just more opportunity to learn and absorb and apply what you're learning. Now, if you're in a situation where 1 year you really just want to do it, I think that's great too. My advice, though, would be to do it over a bit of a longer period of time.
All right, thank you so much, Dave, for our panelists to take the time out of your day just to share a little bit about your experience in the program. And if you all thank you also for taking the time for listening to this recording today. And if you have any questions about the program, feel free to reach out to us at mls@law.ucla.edu, and we'd be happy to answer any questions for you. So thanks again.